All right, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be introducing our first session of the day. We have Mary Baum, and Mary Baum edits copy on the WordPress core team and co-led the release of WordPress 5.2.2. She's a degreed designer and self-proclaimed professional computer breaker. Hopefully none of that today. And she's here today to give you some of her many opinions. Welcome, Mary.
Good morning, Santa Clarita and the nation. So over the last couple of weeks, or 6 years as the case may be, damn long time since we've been out of the house, isn't it? I've been experimenting. You know, I am a Genesis person, but you know, I'm on the core team and we do ship default themes. So I thought, maybe I ought to try one. I've never even had one installed before. Well, after 6 years and 2 weeks of experimenting, turns out I'm the lab rat on several dimensions. I think I can write a pretty good report on my attention deficit disorder. And the questions that I had that are more important than this one came fast and furious. And in fact, this was the big one. I don't usually bring Bessie out this early in the talk. You guys all know Bessie. She's the elephant in the room. Hardy, hardy, hard. I cannot see you, so I don't know who I'm making eye contact with. But the question came up, here's the TLDR of this whole thing, is that the question is, do themes matter much? And it turns out, maybe they don't for now. Because there's a lot of stuff that matters more. And right now it really is more about the blocks. And what's interesting about blocks is we get blocks from everywhere. We get blocks from plugins. We get blocks from core. I have a feeling we get blocks from some themes, not from Genesis, not from 2020, and not from Genesis child themes. But blocks mixed together, look and feel, presentation. They're all about presentation in some respects. They give us a lot of flexibility and functionality. Now, what have we been telling you if you're new, and what have we been telling people if you're a developer for the last 10 years? We do look and feel with themes. We do functionality with plugins. And never the twain shall meet, except look, they're meeting. I'm not much for peanut butter in chocolate, because I'm not much for dessert peanut butter. But Dick and the kids seem to love it, and they're much more representative of the world than I am. I mean, y'all, I just showed you an elephant in the room. I'm weird. So, Genesis or 2020? Because that's the question we started with, right? Here's what actually happened. My vet obviously needed a COVID response. So there's that big button we added in the color of tomato soup. And he also needed a code overhaul to get rid of Foundation. Foundation is one of those CSS frameworks that let you do grids really easily back before we had CSS Grid and Flexbox, when we were doing floats a lot. And it is huge. You'll see how huge I think in a bit. And then I also wanted to get something built to connect to some Dropships sites Dropship site I've been playing with for almost a year. So this is basically thrown together in 2020. I may redo it in Genesis before it goes live. And so those were the ground rules. And there were a few others. This was not going to be about fine design, because frankly, with 2 weeks, even though I feel like 6 years, there wasn't time for that. So here were the parameters I imagined sticking to. With those shop things, I was just going to stick to standard shop layouts in WooCommerce. All 176 of them. No big design changes. I was going to let the block editor do its thing, but if you look into what different blocks can do, because there are a lot. I saw something yesterday that said there are over 2,000 different blocks in the wild these days. And this is key for some of those pre-built elements that come like in Genesis Sample and Atomic Blocks. I was going to stop obsessing and learn to love the divitis. We do a lot of block nesting now, and it's fine. It's fine. All right. 15 minutes later, I'm on a damn search and destroy mission after that red type with the underline that's in Helvetic or some damn thing. This 5 typefaces on a page is like not flying. So I learned that nothing distracts me like colors and type. I am easily distracted. Now, it's not 2020's fault. It's not 2020's fault. It's perfectly well organized, which I would know if I'd looked. And I could have changed the colors more easily. See, right in the block, you can change the colors, 3 clicks. It's not really bad. Could have done the same thing in 2020. Either way, not bad. If I'd looked, but who looks when you're like enraged because something is the wrong color? And I'd be a lot faster in the CSS files because, like I said, 2020 is perfectly well organized. Now, it uses a different, what we call a document object model, or the DOM. If you write CSS and JavaScript, you're going to run into that term, the DOM. And I had been being like, I thought the Genesis DOM was the DOM. Well, guess what? It's like Taoism, which is an Eastern religion. And there's a lot of DOMs. Taoism says the Tao that can be understood is not the Tao. Well, there's DOMs and there's DOMs. And just because I'm used to one doesn't mean there aren't others. See, look, table of contents right there. You can understand exactly how any 2020 site is going to be organized if I had looked. So that's on me. And the one reason I think I had the same experience in both themes is I had Atomic Blocks installed in both. Atomic Blocks is great, by the way. You can do a lot with it. There it is. I'm showing you the screen in both. I hid the top bar, so I don't know which is which anymore. But this is 2020, doing an Atomic Blocks advanced column layout. a little bit, oh, okay. It's a little bit tedious to do it this way. To adjust 3 columns isn't bad. I wouldn't want to do 500 this way, and we'll get to that. And there it is there it is in 2020. And here's the advanced columns in Genesis. It's the whole thing. And it's really fast. Now, for me, and if you love CSS the way I do, it's not as fast as banging out a couple CSS rules to do it all, do them all at once. And also, if I want to rearrange the order, there's some things in modern CSS you can do that with. But that's another talk for another day. You can do it. You can do some of that magic with WooCommerce blocks, sort of. I did not get around to changing those gray buttons. I did search and destroy on the earlier one so that it would look nice for the talk, but this is like how it really looks. Now, in WooCommerce, you cannot build a product in a block. You still have to make it the old-fashioned way because database. So, because you have all this to fill out. I don't know if you can see me pointing at that or not. And let me tell you, WooCommerce is big. All of the big functionality plugins are big. I looked at the event calendar. I don't know if we have Andy Fagan in the house who originally wrote that. I noticed he got his name on a couple of the add-ons for that to this day. But anytime you have big, you're going to have wrestling matches and search and destroy to make sure that you get everything styled. So this is WooCommerce. And this isn't even very many products. It's what, 16, 20, something like that. But it is big. This is WooCommerce, just the bed and bath department. There's the product, and look how much information is on this page. Keynote animation for the win. Isn't that cute? This is WooCommerce. That's 6 plugins, including WooCommerce itself. And that's just the free ones. I may have paid for one. Look how many pages of settings. That's what, 14 screens potentially? Plus there's some look and feel in the customizer. And look at those files. Look at this, look at that, all those CSS files. Fortunately, you don't have to style them all. The best practices say we don't. What we do is we copy the important ones to the theme and change those, because otherwise anything we change, we're going to lose every time there's update. And in WooCommerce, there's often an update. We change 2020.css and WooCommerce.css. And do you see those .scss files? Do you know what those are? Those are actually a big help, kind of, if you keep the variable names consistent and you don't mind referring to lime green as $orange. Yeah, and that's like having a 3-year-old again, and she insists it's opposite day. Love you, Bear Bear. And I especially love the part where you're turning 30. Hell with that opposite day crap. It used to break my brain. So, big functionality, big plugin. And that's true for event calendar. That's true for hotel booking. That's true for appointments, events. I said events. I've said events about 4 times. Real estate. Anytime where you're really adding something with big functionality, you're going to have a big plugin. And that's going to dominate what you style and what you spend your time doing in site. It's really not about the theme. And then when it's just you, you get big flexibility in the block editor because the blocks do amazing things. Now, you're not going to want to do the same change to a block and configure the same set of blocks 500 times. We love to say as developers that developers are lazy. Once a developer has to do something 3 times, she is bound to figure out a way to do it in code because that's just tedious. So, Bessie, I'm sorry I said rat. You know that the reason she came out early was that she was freaking out in the green room the minute I said I was a rat because, you know, elephants and rodents don't get along. Emily, the cat around here somewhere, would have just, you know, killed the rat. But Bessie's different. So what are themes for? If you're making 500 changes in the block editor, chances are you need everything to stay on brand. When you have a lot of folks producing a lot of material in a lot of places, then you need to stay on brand. When everybody in those places needs to look like one unit and speak with one voice, and you need to stay on brand. Right now, in this transitional phase, when we're really not sure what themes are for, other than that, that's what themes are for. When you want one look, one voice, when you want consistency, and you don't want it to break and batter and bruise everybody who is building stuff. That's what themes are for. And that's who I am. I'm on the core team. You can find me on Twitter, GitHub, WordPress.org. That's my profile. And I am a tennis person once we start playing tennis again. Thank you very much. And now I will have the tech folks get me back into the checkerboard and we can have some questions and talk. Thank you very much. Yoo-hoo.
Thanks, Mary. Was looking in the chat and I did have one question that people seem to be interested in.
Okay.
You showed a slide that had like a DOM outliner tool, and they were curious if that was a plugin that you were using to see the outlines, or if you generally have recommendations.
I think that's just Chrome Dev Tools. What was it?
It was roughly halfway in.
Was it this one or was it? I mean, that's the table of contents.
Looking at the block editor.
I probably had, that was probably, well, let's just step through these again. Tell me when to stop.
I think I'm on a slight delay, so that might be difficult, but
Oh,
um, Mary will be available during the lunch break as well as afterwards for any specific questions for recommendations. I think your talk resonated with people. They were kind of saying, yeah, we agree about themes and they're just for branding now. They're no longer necessarily for layout. So
yeah. Well,
a lot of thank yous.
responsive and mobile first.
We have some chatter about the reusable blocks too. What are your thoughts on the usability of those?
I have not investigated them much because I'm not sure whether whether a reusable. I don't even know enough to know whether whether you can whether you can change the content granularly in a reusable block. Um, um, at this point, should I pause sharing the screen and see everybody? Or can I do that? More. Oh, who cares? Still don't see anybody. Oh well. Okay. Uh, apparently, I need to spend some time in Zoom figuring some stuff out. I'm not sure. Can you, when you save something as a reusable block, can you then change the content of it, or is it just like locked in marble?
Yeah, I've used them before. You save them, but it's kind of like when you put custom HTML in where you can't retroactively go back and if you've altered the content, then change the layout for all of them. But you can like insert them. You can actually do block grouping too, which might be helpful for some of the people in this session.
Yeah.
Grouping is nice because you can move them all like at one time. You can move them up and down. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Very helpful. Everyone's enjoying the content, so be sure to reach out to Mary if you have more questions later.
Absolutely. I will now ask my husband for the regular WordCamp link and be in the camp with everybody else. Thank you very much.